If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome into 2Guys1Pod, fantasy football podcast. I am the hostess with the mostest, the legendary ball knower, aka Chev90, aka, and I am with the Nard Dog, Addison. I almost called you Allison. Addison, the Nard Dog.
Nard there.
Yeah. Big dogs gotta eat. Hashtag no trademark infringement. No trademark infringement. But the Nard Dog gotta eat. And he's with me today. Nard, Dog, Addison. How are we doing today?
Oh, never better. Been inside for 72 hours. Got back from Europe recently. Feeling.
Okay, so you said these words to me, and you said them with such confidence and conviction that I want to make sure that I heard this right. They don't have eggs there.
They don't have eggs for breakfast. Not for breakfast.
What do they use them for? What do you use? Like just other recipes?
I assume pastries.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess, I guess. I don't know how I feel about this, honestly. Like I don't know how I feel about what you just told me. I'm not encouraged.
What's your go-to breakfast? What's your go-to breakfast?
I eat the same thing. I eat the same one. I normally fast during the week. Like, so I won't eat until like noon. But on the weekends, my wife will bring me like 3 scrambled eggs, 2 sausage links. Yeah. And then like whatever else. So I eat like it's 3 eggs, 2 sausage links, maybe 2 pieces of bacon. That's my go-to.
Excellent
so
breakfast.
You telling me that they don't have eggs for breakfast, like that's not something that's going to be available to me. Where you were in
Switzerland, Italy, Iceland.
Just trekking across the great Europe continent-ish.
The United States of Europe, yes.
Yeah, the United Europe Emirates of Europea, I guess. So all over Europe.
Majors here.
Yes, geography is one of my strong suits, one of the strongest suits. I am the legendary geography. No, never mind. Anyway, so
we're talking football.
We're here to talk football and why eggs are an integral part of any fantasy football argument. You got to crack an egg or two to make an egg with. Listen. So anyway, today we're going to talk to you about the best and worst case for the top prospects at each position in the upcoming NFL draft. The best case scenario, I'm going to lay out the best case scenario. I'm going to be glass half full guy. And Addison's going to come in full Captain Underpants, fresh off his trip to the United States of Europe, and give you the nastiest of the nasty boys of pro comps for these players. Addy, are you ready to get into it, brother?
Oh, I've never been more ready, and we're starting strong. Let's go.
We're gonna start.
Start us up, please.
Bring it. No. You got the energy. I want to hear. Are we gonna go worst case first?
Yeah, we're going worst case first on these.
I told you.
I'm embracing the unders this year.
I'm embracing the unders. Captain Underpants is back, and he is ready.
Darn tootin'. All right, we got Dion's little dude here. We got Sanders, and we got his worst comp. I think the low ball comp for him is Teddy Bridgewater. We're talking
My
a
goodness.
guy. Yeah, I know. It doesn't sound great. He's got some accuracy, so I'm still giving him Teddy. Teddy's got that accuracy.
That's fair.
But Teddy looked a little bit faster at Louisville than he did in the pro uniform there. I think Sanders is going to look a little bit slower in a pro uniform.
I mean, he's slow anyway, so like
Yeah, he's
that's
pretty
not.
slow.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know. I don't understand how the genetics work with having
Right.
maybe one of the fastest DBs of all time as your father, and just not getting any of those fast twitch muscles.
Not one.
Not a single one. It's just all just regular, just bus driver body. Just hey, look. The good thing is he can sling it.
He
Sling
can.
it. So you're going with Teddy Bridgewater as the worst case scenario for 2025 quarterback 2 in some people's eyes, Shedeur Sanders. You're going with Teddy Bridgewater as the worst possible scenario, correct?
That's how I feel, yeah.
That's how you feel. All right, can we elaborate on what makes you feel that way a little bit more?
Yeah, of course. We're looking at a player here who had a dynamic offense around him. Aside from the O-line, I know the O-line wasn't great there at Colorado, but he had the receiving weapons to make plays. And he did. His stats bared it out throughout his whole college career. Even when he was at Jackson State, you saw a ton of those great qualities, but he does not look pro-ready to me. When you watch the film, you see a guy who looks like an outstanding college quarterback who can play, and he can play. That's why the worst case scenario ain't that bad. Teddy Bridgewater's not a bad quarterback. I'd be happy for that. It's a little bit nicer than being to Cam Ward, not to spoil anything there. But you see the accuracy and you see the arm strength. But I don't think that it's going to translate into the pros really well. And I think he's going to come into a bad situation too. And that's the roughest part about it because he is developing still. And I really don't want to see him in a Giants uniform because they're going to break that shiny toy.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Very well said. So,
What's his best case?
best case scenario for me. Now, we are talking about a guy with somewhat of a limited toolbox, and he's going to have to rely on the mind and the anticipation, the being able to put it in put it in the windows, throw people open. We've seen so you laid out all the negatives. The positives are we know the kid is tough as nails. He got beat. They beat the piss out of him for 2 years at Colorado. The second year they came in, they said, "Hey, man, we've got some guys that we're gonna put on the offensive line. We got a 5-star guy, we got a 4-star guy, we got another 4-star guy," and he's still like I watched that Nebraska game from start to finish, and from rooter to tutor, they absolutely were trying to tear him apart, and that it was rough to watch, and you saw a guy who got unsettled, and they just had to go just to screen passes and dump offs, and whenever they tried to throw it down the field, it did not work very well. So, like I said, limited toolbox. He's not going to have the best escapability. Nobody's going to mistake him for Lamar Jackson. So my comp that I came with, best case scenario, is Brock Purdy.
Okay. I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. I could see it. See, but Brock Purdy's on the Niners.
Correct. Brock Purdy is on the Niners. Now, if this is, ifs and buts, candy and nuts, if Shedeur were to land somewhere with an established offensive mind, an offensive line that could keep him upright and not running for his life, my ideal landing spot for him, this might sound a little crazy, would be the Cleveland Browns.
Really? Okay, I thought you were going to go Rams there.
Well, we're assuming that he's right
Yeah,
now he's
he's gonna
people's
get taken
QB. He's
before
a lot
that.
of people's QB too. And I mean,
Yeah.
ironically enough, I ran a mock draft on Uncovered NFL the other day, and he slid all the way to the first pick of the second round, pick 33.
Oh my goodness. Every freaking time, dude.
Yeah. And so he ends up in Cleveland. Now, what we have seen is quarterbacks that can throw with anticipation. 2 years in a row, we've seen Joe Flacco come in, and then we saw Jameis Winston come in for a brief period of time before he started short circuiting, and get the ball out on time, and then you throw, like, being able to throw with timing. Just those things, those elements are staples of the Stefanski system that apparently the $255 million towel boy just could not grasp and get, and flourish in that system. But we've seen other quarterbacks do it. I think Shedeur would match up very well in that system and have a Brock Purdy-esque ceiling. I believe he's the most landing spot dependent quarterback of the bunch because he doesn't have the strongest arm. He does rely on his acumen from the neck up to get him out of situations, being able to see things before they happen. So yeah, for me, it's going to be Brock Purdy as his ceiling comp.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more, especially with the landing spot dependent take, because I think we're seeing that in the mock drafts. You and I have been in a couple here, and every time I'm just sitting there around the 109, 110, and I'm like, Shedeur's still there? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Well, we got one of my hotter takes here coming up. We're talking my QB2 in this draft class, Cam Ward, Hurricane Faithful. And we got the worst case scenario here is Gardner Minshew.
Oh my.
I'm going to stand strong on this one.
Oh my. Oh my. Wow. Okay. Talk to us.
Well, first off, this guy's been bouncing around for a while. We got a quarterback who hasn't exactly flourished in every single scenario. He has good stats. He's had good years. But he's been in college for a while. This is his fifth year there. He's coming into the pros a little late. He's going to get drafted real early. Probably to the Titans. Now, the Titans haven't been a great landing spot for a developing quarterback. And they sure do not have an O-line that I'd want to sit behind. Now, Miami had an O-line, and even then, at times, he looked a little bit easy to rattle. He looked a little bit, you know how you were talking about the Nebraska game for Shedeur. That's how he looked a lot of this year.
Yeah.
And he's got the tools. Don't get me wrong. He's got them. I believe in it. I believe that he can be a great quarterback, but I think we're going to be seeing a situation here, a little Zach Wilson-esque, where he kind of falls apart.
Don't you dare.
That one was mean.
No.
Gardner Minshew was mean enough.
Well, you are here to give us the worst case scenario. So, yeah, from a build standpoint, from both being Washington State quarterback standpoint, at some point or another, the collegiate start.
Washington State. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. So I can see if it goes wrong, I can see it. I can see that playing out that way. I think that. I am not normally at a loss for words, but that one got me. If it goes bad, it's gonna go bad, and that's all I'm gonna be able to see is they're built similarly. They both went to Washington State. This could be one of the worst things, but I'm gonna choose to focus on the positive. Here. I'm gonna go with his high-end comps being Jordan Love and Baker Mayfield. So the positives that we did see from Cam Ward, he's extremely creative in the pocket. He keeps plays alive. He'll scramble around, constantly being able to being able to make a defender miss and then just slide up in the pocket. His pocket presence is really good. It's almost he's too patient in the pocket because sometimes he'll walk himself right into a sack or a negative play or getting hit or taking unnecessary hits in the pocket. I think that the ability to deliver off platform reminds me of a Jordan Love coming out of Utah State. That was one of his calling cards, is being able to deliver the ball accurately. I believe this past season against the Texans, Jordan Love had the hardest throw up until week 18 where Joe Milton started. He had the hardest throw in terms of miles per hour and velocity in the history of the NFL when he threw that touchdown to Tucker Kraft, and it like zipped through the Texans defenders' hands, and I think it registered like 62 miles an hour or something like that. So I think
Crazy.
Cam Ward has that type of, he can generate that type of velocity on his throws. And the other was Baker Mayfield, and that's again similar size, similar build, very sneaky athletic. Not going to be a 700-yard rusher, but going to give you a little bit on the ground, keep plays alive with his legs, and then scramble drill, be able to find somebody downfield, and the arm is much stronger than you give it credit for. So if things go well, we could see a Tampa Baker Mayfield coming out of the gate for Cam Ward if it goes well.
You know something I noticed here with all three of the players that we put? There are three players that have looked really bad in bad scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jordan Love a couple times this year, he didn't really look super NFL ready. A couple times Baker Mayfield in Cleveland didn't look super NFL ready. Gardner Minshew, don't need to be a dead horse here, but that being said, it's a little scary to have a toolsy quarterback like that can just huck it, that has that pocket presence, because he made Damian Martinez look like a receiving back with how often he was moving in the pocket, and that guy's not. That ain't in his bag. But I did a little film review, and I was like, oh, he actually has some hands. And it's like, yeah, if you're standing in the pocket for 25 minutes, you're gonna find the running back eventually. So it's interesting.
No, I agree.
I hope he works out. I like him a lot.
I really hope he works out too. I mean, this is a really good feel-good story. Those of you who don't know Cam Ward, all-time leader in NCAA career touchdown passes Case Keenum, the hero of the Vikings Miracle, whatever that thing's called, Miracle in the
Minneapolis Miracle. Yeah.
Yeah, Minneapolis Miracle. The quarterback that threw the touchdown pass there. He was the all-time leader in NCAA touchdown passes. Cam Ward takes that over in the Pop-Tart Bowl before taking himself out of the game. 190 passing yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half. So I think that, I think it's a positive when a guy, all these guys that we're going to talk about today have the requisite amount of starts that I like to see from quarterbacks. So and that's not an arbitrary, I mean, it's an arbitrary number. I just like to see at least 2 seasons of a guy just being at the helm and being in control. So that brings us to our next guy.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know you were a fan of that. I'm actually a big believer that it doesn't matter how many years you have at the helm, but that's a cool one. We haven't chopped this up.
So yeah, I find it to be, with the way that the NFL is structured now, you're not going to have a ton of opportunity for a guy to sit and develop. You need those guys to be ready now. Listen, I'm not doing this just to stick it to you, but Mitchell Trubisky, 13 college starts.
I was just thinking,
right?
Mitch.
Yeah, 13 college starts, right? Trey Lance. I think he had like 600 total dropbacks from high school to the NFL.
Yeah.
From high school to the NFL. 600 total dropbacks. I think he started like 10 games, somewhere along those lines. And then the latest and greatest example of this is Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
Like he started 1 year.
Easy one. Yeah.
Right. So, and then you look at guys who, I don't think that I don't think that Bo Nix is the poster boy for this, but it's hard to argue. I mean, he started the most games in college football history, and he comes into Sean Payton's offense. He's ready to play. He comes out, he balls out. He's the only quarterback. He's him and Jaden Daniels, another example of a guy who's played a ton of quarterback. They come in, they're ready to play. They come out, they're the only quarterbacks to go 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 10 wins in their rookie season. So I think there's something to be said, especially with the way that the NFL is now, to having those starts under your belt. It'll be interesting to see with a guy like J.J. McCarthy, if the Vikings choose to move to him this year, kind of how that works, because he started for 2 years. And that's kind of the threshold, and he was the guy. I mean, you would call him a bus driver, but you can clearly see that there's tools there that you'd really like, and he's super young. So I'm interested to see that, just to kind of test the theory.
Yeah, I am too. And yep, we move on to another guy who's had quite a few starts, and we'll try and go faster on the later ones. I think on our next one for Milroe, we're gonna have very similar comps. Your best case was actually what I was thinking for my worst case on that one, but saw your name down there, couldn't put that, so I had to think of another QB. But we got Jaxson Dart here, 4-year starter, has looked pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
You could argue the receiver kind of made him, or did he make the receiver for Trey Harris?
Mm-hmm.
But I have my worst comp here as Mac Jones or Colt McCoy. And I know those are slightly different quarterbacks, but we're talking about guys who played in college and looked good. Mac Jones, I know, played a little bit less, but he was in the Nick Saban system, so he got plenty of reps. I am quite sure that Mac Jones was prepared for a pro-style offense by the time that he got out there. And Colt McCoy, who did play a lot of college ball. These guys are quarterbacks who can move in the pocket, who in a very specific offense can look great, and who in a different offense do not look good. And we saw this in Jacksonville last year. Mac Jones, after putting together a little Cinderella story for New England, looking like a real quarterback, goes into Jacksonville, gets his shot behind Trevor Lawrence, and what does he do? Put up very few yards and even less points.
Buddy. Oh, buddy. Oh, man.
Are you a Dart
so
guy?
I'm not. And here's
I'm not
the thing.
either.
I wanted to be, but then people came out as soon as football stopped happening, and they were like, hey, I like this guy better than I like Shedeur Sanders. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Stop it right now.
I saw him go before Sanders in a mock.
Yeah. I mean, and this is becoming the refrain of the offseason, when a guy who we're not going to talk about today is the guy that everybody's bypassing, that's the guy that you perennially just insert into the first round because you're overhyped about the last thing that you saw from him. The last thing that we saw from Jaxson Dart was him blowing the game against Florida. I think that this is okay. So let me get into my best case scenario, because I'm not a Jaxson Dart guy. By the way, listeners, friends of the pod, Rick says that Jaxson Dart's going to go in the first round, probably top 15. He can't be with us tonight because he's recovering from the plague. He's not all the way recovered. He'll be back on shortly. However, Rick says that he's going to go in the top 15 because quarterbacks are overdrafted. We know this.
He's probably right.
He's probably right, and it would be wrong. Okay? So my best comp, I don't see the high end, like I think he could end up being a steady starter in the NFL, and he could give you one high end outcome in his career. I mean, my high end comp for him is Andy Dalton. Solid starter.
Totally
solid
agree.
starter, could get your team to 10 wins, get your team, get you to a wild card, maybe win you a division if your big dog in the division gets hurt. but never the guy that's going to have you in contention to get you over the hump, in my opinion. Andy Dalton just signs another 2-year extension with the Carolina Panthers to be their backup today. I think that is the comp for Jaxson Dart. Yeah, good for him.
And good for Jaxson Dart, because he'll get that backup QB money.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'm saying is I think he's going to be a starter. I just don't think that he's toolsy enough to be. I think we're getting the wool pulled over our eyes the way that we did with Matt Corral a few years ago.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good Matt Corral pull there.
And I think that this is going to be, I think that he's better than Matt Corral. So we have a safer floor because, I mean, the floor is being a USFL quarterback. And then Andy Dalton Andy Dalton's going to be steady. He's going to think that that's what Jaxson Dart's going to be. So, yeah, we're going to move through these next ones pretty quickly. You know, we've got worst case scenario for Jaxson Dart, Colt McCoy, Mac Jones. Best case, Andy Dalton. What's our worst case scenario for our next player? Nard Dog.
We got Jalen Milroe here. You know,
that's
we're
your
only
boy.
talking.
That's your boy.
Yeah, he is. He is. But you know what? He's getting hyped into the first round, and he can't be my boy anymore because that's silly. You don't hate players, you hate ADPs. I know the moniker. I believe it. You don't hate players, you hate their draft position, because if he goes this early, yeah, it's going to be rough. It's going to be A-Rich all over again. If you put all of that on a player that's that raw, because he can chuck it. He's good. He's good at football, but, like, he's not there yet. We saw he wasn't there yet. He was clearly not. It was kind of rough to watch at times. So I got Malik Willis.
Bad.
Yeah, Malik Willis. I think that's what he is. But to be honest, who I wanted was the best case scenario that you put on here, because I think our Venn diagrams are converging on this one.
Yeah, I think we both. I think so. Here's the thing: we both were Milroe guys, and then like, he didn't take the step forward as a passer that we both were hoping to see him take a step forward and be like, okay, this is Justin Fields-esque. This is I can get myself to an Anthony Richardson type of wheelhouse with this player because of the fact that he's so dangerous with his legs, but he's just that bad with his arm. So my best case scenario, like, I don't think that this guy's going to be a quarterback in the NFL.
He might not.
Do you?
Probably not anymore, because if you put him in a high-stress situation, I think you're going to break him.
And, like, that's, all right, so here's the thing. We said all these guys have the collegiate requisite starts that we like to see. So we've seen a lot of Jalen Milroe, and we've just never seen it be good enough for him to play quarterback on the NFL level for me.
Or me, to be fair.
Yeah.
Here. We just haven't.
So I went with Terrelle Pryor. I just can't see this. I cannot see this working out with him at the quarterback position. The thing is, he has transcendent athleticism to where he could play another position. I think he could be a dynamic receiver in the league.
He could. Yeah.
6'1", 220. Yeah. He sets the Alabama rushing record for rushing touchdowns in a season. I believe he set the SEC record for quarterbacks, if I'm not mistaken.
Actually, that's pretty neat. Well, not to spend too much time on Milroe here, because we're going to hear him talked out of the water the second he runs under a 4.4. Are there any other QBs that are worth talking about here? Like, I don't want to talk about Ewers personally. I think Ewers is a classic backup quarterback. I do not think that he's going to end up amounting to much. Are you a big Dylan Gabriel guy?
I'm rooting for him because he's undersized. He's an underdog.
Yeah,
and he does throw. He throws an excellent ball, but he is left-handed, so that kind of weirds me out. Like, I just, if there's one guy for me that I'm really excited to see kind of through this process, it's Will Howard. It's
Okay.
Will Howard.
I like that one.
It's, yeah, big, toolsy. I did a scout. I'm doing a scouting report for the Fantasy Football Advice Network for rookies. So I watched all of his games that are available on Dynasty Nerds, and from 2024. And I went back and watched his last year at Kansas State against the University of Texas. He has an 80-yard touchdown run on there. So like we have the athleticism. He's got another play against Penn State where you have Quinshon Judkins, you've got Travion Henderson on the field, and they run student body left quarterback sweep with Will Howard to ice the game. Like, so we're talking 6'5", 235 with plus athleticism to contribute in the run game. And I've seen him layer throws like up the seam. He's throwing it to these guys. Now, granted, these are going to be pro receivers, but he's putting it on them to where it's just easy, seamless catch and run. They're not having to do any work to get the ball. And that's a very, very underrated tool. So Will Howard's a guy that I'm really excited about after just being able to fully scout him, because I was out. I called him a bus driver driving an F1 at Ohio State. But he's grown on me after having watched the film.
It's funny. I actually have a similar Will Howard take. I wasn't a big believer. I saw the national championship and it kind of sold me a little, but I really got sold actually in Europe. We had an Ohio State fan there because of course we do. You got an Ohio State fan everywhere.
Yep.
KC and Ohio State. And the guy just talked my ear off about how Will Howard's going to be a real quarterback. He's like, yeah, he kind of carried the team there. He kind of brought him to the ship, helped make Travion Henderson's thing, helped make a Mecca thing, and I was like, okay, that's a little bit much. Don't agree with you, but like,
yeah, that's a bridge too far. But
an Ohio State fan's gonna do that,
right? Hey, talk your guy up, even if it's at the expense of your other first round picks.
Yeah,
got it.
But, maybe he's going to do it. I watched a little extra film and I was like, okay, he is a real quarterback. He's going to be a really solid addition to some team's QB room, and maybe you'll see him turn into something. But we got some running backs talk here. You start us off with a positive case because I don't want to talk negative.
Yeah, okay. So I'll lead us off. It's obviously the class of the position here in 2025 is Ashton Jeanty. Comes out of nowhere. I mean, he was kind of on the radar as a receiving back going into the beginning of the season. Ollie Gordon's your RB1, and then this guy just bursts on the scene. I believe it was 192 yards rushing against Oregon, and just a bevy of highlight reel plays where he's bouncing off tacklers. He's cribbing it from 65 yards out. He's constantly making the first guy miss and look silly, and he carries that into a historic season. Personally, I like the long speed. So this comp doesn't make sense, but his contact balance is absolutely insane. My high-end comps are Emmitt Smith and Marshawn Lynch.
I agree entirely. The Marshawn one especially. I know you're a little bit older. You probably saw Emmitt play a bit more than me, but
Emmitt's the reason I started watching football, but yeah.
Oh, no kidding. Marshawn's one of the reasons I started watching.
Nice.
Love a good running back. Yeah. That and AP running over my Bears every year. But such a good player. But you know what? I don't have even a single complaint about those comps. I could not agree more. And to be honest, it was really hard to think of a low end comp for him because I'm a big believer. The contact balance matters.
Yeah.
Like it's
100%.
Huge.
Yes.
And
yes.
You know what? If it doesn't translate, even then, I think he ends up looking like a Travis Etienne. And that's who I went with here. I don't like that comp. I don't really think that's gonna be him. But when you have Travis Etienne in your running back room, he can catch the ball, he can show up, he can still play the passing game, but in the running game, he will get what's blocked for him. Now, on the other side of that, while we were talking, when you said contact balance, the first thing that came to my mind was, you know who he also looks a little like? Doug Martin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
Hey,
might be a
former
low
Boise
end.
State Bronco. Former Boise State Bronco. Yeah.
Yep.
That's yes. Like that's the thing. But he has this home run hitting ability to crib it from anywhere that just makes you be like, I think he's faster than what we're giving him credit for. So if he runs at the combine, I'm interested to see if he cracks like he's one of those like low 4.4 guys, or if he's more of a 4.47, like 4.51. I don't care.
It
For the
doesn't matter.
record, I do not care. I don't care about 40s for running backs unless it's going to be something insane. Like you're going to run like a low 4.3 at like 215, 220 pounds, or your
Or
Saquon or your
4.5.
230. Yeah. Yeah. Your Saquon and you run a 4.40 at 230. Like I don't care what your 40 is because I'm more interested in your 10-yard split. But yeah, let's not spend too much time. We love Ashton Jeanty. This is an Ashton Jeanty stand station here. If you are an Ashton Jeanty stand, this will always be a safe space for you. Let's move on to
What's his best landing spot for you?
easily the Denver Broncos.
Really? Oh, wow, we have a different one. Mine is
What's yours?
easily Dallas Cowboys.
I would love that. I would love the Dallas Cowboys. I think the Denver Broncos are a better team, better equipped
You're right.
right now for him to. So he steps into that role. Javonte Williams is a free agent. All you've got to do is beat out Audric Estime and Jaleel McLaughlin, and you've basically got a workhorse role to yourself in a better offense, in my opinion.
All right. Well, let's move it to number 2 on this list. And then I'll start a worst case here because I still really believe in this player, and I think the worst case kind of shows that. Omarion Hampton, I got Cam Akers as mine because you still see the speed, and I'm talking pre-injury Cam Akers, or if you still see that when you see him play, maybe like I don't really. I'm talking like L.A. Rams, Cam Akers, run through tacklers, making plays, and I really think Omarion Hampton can put up that exact same sort of play style. UNC, he was killing it. He had 2 seasons of just excellent performance. He can catch the ball, and that's one of the big reasons that I comped Cam Akers, because he is a 3-down running back. He can be your workhorse.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that the floor on a lot of these guys, this is why this running back class is so beautiful to me. The floor on a lot of these guys is very safe. I comped this running back class once we started kind of getting into the weeds and a lot more of these guys emerged and broke out. I mean, we've been waiting on the Travions. We've been waiting on Quinshawn. We've been waiting on, Dylan Sampson. We've been waiting on these guys to be draft eligible for a couple years, right? I mean, Dylan Sampson was obviously stuck behind. Dylan Sampson was stuck behind Jalen Wright, but he balled out this year. He's going to be he's an early declare. This class, to me, it reminds me a lot of 2017. And my comp, one of my comps for the high end for Omarion Hampton is Joe Mixon, a running back from the class of 2017. Okay. So I think, similar size, very angular build. Now, Joe Mixon as a pass catcher, he's superior to what Joe Mixon was as a pass catcher. Joe Mixon is superior to what Omarion Hampton is as a pass catcher, and I think that that's something that doesn't get talked about enough in Joe Mixon's game. We've seen him be a 3-down workhorse in Cincinnati and now in Houston. And then Latavius Murray, kind of that angular running style, but can also, hit a home run from 60 yards out, 70 yards out. Latavius Murray's got a 90-yard touchdown and one of the coolest celebrations for his touchdown after, hitting the LT. So, yeah, I like those. I think those are really solid comps for me, just from a size speed perspective and what's expected of him. What will, I think, be expected of him walking in the door. And, yeah, I'm really excited. He's my RB2 in this class. Let's talk about the third guy on this list that we're going to talk about, and like show some respect, okay? Show some respect here.
We
Show
got
some
different
respect.
opinions on this guy.
Be careful what you're about to say on this guy, because you just be careful.
Yeah, it's rare that we fully disagree on a prospect.
Okay.
But Kaleb Johnson, I think we saw him pressing this entire year.
Mm-hmm.
We saw him trying to put the team on his back and not doing the best job.
Interesting.
You think he did? You think he did? I really see it.
So let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Okay? If a team only scored 40 offensive touchdowns for a calendar season, for one whole year of football, and one player scored 23 of those, would you say that they put the team on their back?
Yeah, he put the team on his back. He didn't have to, they were going to give him the ball the whole time anyways. It didn't matter.
I mean, like, what did you want him to do?
I'll be honest. A lot of the times I saw, because I'm going to compare him to Omarion Hampton here, because that's where the turning point tends to be in these drafts. People have their side of this argument. Omarion Hampton, every time I saw him get the ball, 5 yards, minimum. He just took it, he found the gap, he made the play. Kaleb Johnson, yeah, he got tons of big plays. You saw a lot of talent from the guy. I thought he was pressing the whole time. And I think if he does that in an NFL running back room, he is going to spend a lot of time behind a guy that I have him comped to, Tyler Allgeier. I think he is going to be... I think he's going to end up being a backup because of that. And maybe I'm wrong. This is one of those players where I just don't see it. Sometimes I have those guys where I'm just... I got a hunch in my mind that they can't play football at the next level. But I know that Kaleb Johnson has a lot of stands, and I want to hear the case. Talk me out of it.
Well, you can see what my comps are. You could see, I mean, just profile alone. So let's run it down. Kaleb Johnson.
We got a lot of zone guys here.
Yeah, 6 foot, 225 pounds. One of the best home run hitting backs in turn, just long speed, breakout runs, long runs of 25, runs of 50 yards, was leading the league. Not leading the league, leading the NCAA in rushing yards through 4 weeks with 685, averaging 8.5 yards a carry. Finishes with 1,500 yards, 23 touchdowns on 240 carries. True junior. Listen, I was where you were, okay? At first, I was.
Yeah.
I was like, this is gross. This is Jordan Mason in an Iowa Hawkeye uniform.
That is great. Yes.
But then, so for the scouting report, I had to go in, and I was like, I don't like this guy. I don't like him at all. I'm not a fan. That's a 70-yard touchdown there. That's pretty long. That's 50. That's a 50 ball. But the hole was wide open. That's not even that impressive. That's not even that good. I was like, yeah, well, it's only, he could only do this on like wide zone plays. And then they run a double team, they run a duo, and he presses and then gets vertical, and then he cribs that from about 45 yards out. And then I get to the Ohio State game, and I was like, well, he doesn't really make people miss. There's a linebacker on a play, and I'll send all these to you. I should have time-stamped them. I should have time-stamped them, but I'll go back and find them. And there's a play where he just makes a guy just straight up miss in the hole and scores like a 20-yard touchdown against Ohio State. Now, I will say this. Everything that you're saying about him pressing, I think that's more so he's a runway runner.
He is.
And my comps for him, there were other runway runners that have been very successful very
You're right.
successful in the NFL. First one is Todd Gurley. Like, we saw Todd Gurley come out his rookie year, have success in like man and gap schemes with Jeff Fisher, but that even went really poorly for a big stretch of the season. So after that first 5 games of his rookie year, we rushed for 566 yards and set the rookie record for 100-yard rushing games in his to start a career, and yards gained rushing in his first 4 starts with 566. I still remember all this to this day, because Todd Gurley is one of my favorite running backs coming out of college. It went bad. It went bad for about 5 weeks up into the fantasy playoffs, to the point where it was like, man, can I play Todd Gurley anymore? Like, I don't know if I. Yeah. And then he goes out against the Detroit Lions and balls out. I mean, has a crazy game. But then the next year, 2016, okay? 2016, he comes out and defenses were just like, hey, we're not going to let Todd Gurley beat us. And I don't know if you remember what that looked like, but it was 200 and some odd carries. I think he averaged like 3.3 yards a carry. He finished with 885 yards and 6 total touchdowns. Yep. Finished with 1,200 yards from scrimmage. And people were just like, I don't know about Todd Gurley. And it was because
you get him in the top of the 4th.
Yeah. It was solely because he didn't have the runway to launch. And his feet weren't quick enough to say, oh, the hole's not here, it's over here, and I have to go. And that's the same thing I saw with Kaleb Johnson. And I was like, wait a minute. This is all you have to, like, if you give him a runway, if he gets to hit the hole with any sort of head of steam, it's over. Like, that's 7 yards that you just gave up. That's best case scenario. You get 7 or you get 60. That's best case scenario. He's moving the chains. And then, so if you're just going to say, hey, let's stick him in a wide zone, I'm Arian Foster. Big back, very physical, one cut, downhill guy. I've talked about this. I've talked way longer than I wanted to about this, but I just think it's important because this is a guy that I've like fully scouted, that the high end comps are ridiculous. Now, the low end comps, like the things that could happen if he lands in a system where they're asking him consistently to like stop, jump from here to here, jump cut, do this, it's not going to work. That's not the type of running back he is. It's just like asking Derrick Henry to do these things. He's not built to do that. That's not in his movement skill set. So if you're asking him to do that,
what do you mean? That there is a duo concept team that is going to try and run power up the hole and is going to put him in a rough scenario. Like, there is just some coach that thinks that square peg is going to fit into the round hole, and I hate counting on running backs where I believe in the runway run, because I'm with you. I was all about that Todd Gurley life, and I was talking people out of the fact that he was bad. I heard tons of people say, he got 3.3 yards a carry. He doesn't know how to play football. It's like, no, he does. He does. He's incredible. He is going to be great. But you see a lot of coaches think that they can make that peg fit, and he terrifies me because I think that's going to happen to him.
And that it very well could. I'm just saying, keep your mind open. He's scheme flexible. So the important thing is he can have success in man scheme, like gap runs, counters, trays, pull, like traps. He can have success in those. And he can also have success in zone runs. It's just about letting him get to the hole with his shoulder square to the line of scrimmage, and he can make something happen. But to your point, like I said, if his feet stop, it's not going to be good. It's no good. How are we on time?
We're going to break this into 2 episodes.
Okay. All right.
That's how we're doing our time.
All right. I just wanted to make sure. All right. So do you want to go ahead and do you want to do Travion?
Yeah.
We got a bunch of running backs to get through.
Yeah, I didn't know where to cut it off. There are so many good ones. I felt bad cutting it at Neil. But
I know. Let's
Scadabo's not even on here, but
I know. So let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and cut it. Let's go ahead and cut it here, and then we can do another episode like tomorrow if you want.
Sure. Yeah.
And then we can finish out the rest of, I mean, running backs are so deep. I didn't realize that we we're going pretty
We've gotten
deep.
pretty in depth here.
Yeah. We've gotten into the weeds and breaking some of these guys down. So yeah, I mean, honestly, this could be like, we could break this into 3 episodes if we wanted to.
Oh man,
which I'm okay
we got
with.
a lot of receivers here too.
Yeah, like we can break this into 3 episodes. It doesn't matter to me. But yeah. So all right, we'll cut it there. So hey, we just finished talking about Kaleb Johnson. We're gonna go ahead and get out of here. This has been 2Guys1Pod FF. Addie, tell them where they can find you and some of the things that we are offering to the people on social media.
Yeah, of course. We are out on League.champ on TikTok, Duck League Champ on Instagram, X, Twitter. And, we are doing our best to provide a lot of film review for these rookies. We're going to start putting out some resources here. We're going to start making some articles. But most importantly, we're going to be bringing you the first open rankings contest. So keep your spreadsheets ready. We are trying to give you a place to really show that you are the expert of fantasy football in the room. And we're going to be coming out with that real soon. So keep your ears, bells, or whatever goes on in there. I'm not a doctor, but
for me, it's just constant tinnitus with a monkey banging cymbals together when I start talking
it's just
about
a
football.
Noise. Yeah. To be honest, that I've been told my voice kind of gives off that vibe. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we will be bringing a lot more content to you, a lot more about these rookies. Tell them where they can find you, Chev.
Well, you can find the legendary ball knower at Chev90 on X. You can also follow us on all social media platforms at 2Guys1Pod FF. That's TWOGUYSONEPODFF on all social media platforms. I also co-host the Dynasty Pulse, and I host a Titan show for the 12 of us that want to hear about our sad emo futures and how we should draft Travis Hunter, but we're probably going to draft Cam Ward and ruin him. And that's pretty much it. So I'll leave you guys with this. My father once told me, you never shake a man's hand sitting down. If you see yellow snow, you should never eat it.